Hello, YouTube. We are back with another class guide. Today we will be looking at the Warden. And once again, we're at a higher level than we are on the legendary servers, but this is just so that I can get these class guides out to you guys faster rather than needing to re-level up some classes to get to the appropriate level. So don't worry, I'll still show the correct amount of trait points and what the legendaries will look like for you at that specific level cap of 65. We'll go over red line and blue line, go over virtues quickly, legendaries, trait point setups, and gear, which is a mess for Warden, because Warden is very special and unique. And then I'll show you a little screenshot of a little rotation for you to practice and really drill into your head, because Warden is kind of tricky in that way. Alrighty, starting with virtues. So, as always, because of the challenge of these servers, you are just going to be using the standard 5 of fidelity, loyalty, justice, honor, and fortitude. Give you the maximum amount of morale that you can get from virtues. If you really need the mitigations of, then you have tolerance for that extra tactical mitigation if you really need it. Wit, if you're worried about your finesse, either tanking or DPS, but more so tanking. Wit is good for that. But I wouldn't worry about those two until you can get your morale up from other sources. You can use some idealism for tanking if you really want, for that extra incoming healing. Incoming healing and outgoing healing is quite strong on a Warden, especially when tanking, just because of how many self-heals we have. So that is something to consider, but I still strongly recommend the standard 5 just to make sure that your morale is up there, and then you can start putting in different virtues as you get the gear to make up for that morale. All right, let's start with red line first. This is the trait setup that I would recommend for a red. If you really wanted to, you could take out 1 point from diminished targets and 1 point from marked targets and put 2 points into Way of the Spear if you really wanted that initial damage for your spear gambits. It's not super necessary. You could also, if you were low on physical mastery for whatever reason, you could put the 2 points and put it into there. The physical mastery cap being 3k. So you could do that, but generally this is just so that you don't have to use... basically, the buffs will just last longer, so you don't have to go back and fit these into your rotation. You can just kind of use them once, and boom, then the debuffs are there. And eventually, we will kind of max these out. So I think it's like a whole minute or so that these can last eventually, so that'll be really fun, and we will eventually go further down into yellow line. All right, let's look at the legendary items for red. Whoops, that is Guardian. Where's Warden? Warden should be right here. Yes, all right. So for red line, what we are looking for is Fist Gambit damage, and crit chance, very strong. We are looking for Fist Gambit damage over time. That's also a must-have. We are looking for Fist Shield Gambit. So there's Fist Spear Gambit damage over time and Fist Shield Gambit damage over time. You want both of those, plus just the flat Fist Gambit damage and crit chance. This is basically just making it so that all of our AoE bleeds and high hitting abilities plus the dots are just doing the most amount of damage as possible, and that is where a large source of our damage comes from, is the Fist Gambit line. And then the fourth slot for your tracery, class tracery, will be... Actually, wait, I think it's in utility? Yeah, mastery cooldown. Mastery cooldown is super important because it just allows you to use your mastery skill. So spear, spear, shield, shield, fist, fist, and then the shield, fist ones, fist, spear, so on and so forth. It reduces the cooldown of those skills, so it allows you to just build your gambits up quicker. So that's why it is a must-have. But then for Isengard, when I think we get one or two more additional mastery, word of mastery slots, we'll be doing the spear gambit, and I think spear fist. I think that's what we'll be doing. Might be recklessness duration, but I'm pretty sure we're going to start going into the fist stuff, or the spear gambit stuff. And then for our word of craft, our heraldries, you'll want heraldry of the sparrow for just the maximum amount of agility and vitality. If you really want the crit, technically you could do heraldry of the lion, because might actually gives Warden more crit than agility. However, you lose out on a lot of vitality, so this is why Sparrow is just better. Word of crafts, you'll either want you'll want your heroic precision for that 3% critical chance. The reason why this is better than the Ascendant Light, you might think that the light damage is actually better, but it's basically what it comes down to is because the 3% crit chance applies to every single gambit we use, and the 3% crit chance goes over the 25% crit cap. Normally you could only have 25% crit, but this allows you to go to 28% crit, and it applies to everything. That is why this is better. The Ascendant Light is really good. The light damage is really good. However, our light damage gambits are a little bit more AoE focused than they are single target focused, even though they still work single target. But not all of our gambits do light damage. Only the fist gambits do. But this will be something that we use in the future. So if you've already gotten this for whatever reason, or you got like 2 gold Ascendant Lights, and you're like, this sounds good, nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and use it. At a higher level cap, you'll definitely just want the heroic precision, because that crit chance just matters. It just matters a lot. And then the words of power, we want the damage over time stuff. So usually we take single target ones for our words of power, but for Warden, you want your damage over time criticals and damage over time, because we are a very strong dot-focused class. All right, that is red line. We'll go into blue line before we go into gear. So, blue line. This is what I kind of have set up for blue line. There's a couple of points that you can move around a bit. So if you wanted these debuffs to last longer, you could take a couple points out from this healing one, or persevere the other healing one. You could remove a point out of lasting hope, the hot pulses, and make these last longer if you wanted. Basically, there's like 4 to 5 points that are kind of just floating around, so you kind of place them wherever you want. Do you want the buffs to last longer? Do you want more persevere gambit line healing? Do you want your hots to last a little bit longer? Do you not care about the hots lasting longer and you'd rather just have stronger heals in general? Stuff like that. There's also this trait here, the undeniable challenge, which takes resounding challenge gambit. So I'll show that, because we Wardens tend to forget names, and we're generally just hardwired to remember numbers. So this is Resounding Challenge. And what this trait does is it turns this... Here, this is technically the ranged version, so I'll go to the melee version. What this does is it removes the dot effect on this gambit, and it turns it into kind of a mini force taunt. It's not technically a force taunt, but as you can see in the spell description, it says greatly increased threat. That goes away if this talent is not picked, and then instead the damage will show like a main hand damage, and then underneath that it'll show a dot damage. So it's technically less damage overall for a gambit, but this is just a nice talent to have, as it gives you another like kind of a mini force taunt, right? That greatly increased threat. It's not technically a force taunt, but it's almost a force taunt. So when you have your Defiant Challenge on cooldown, because it's going to be on cooldown a lot of the time, and your Warning Shot is on cooldown, and there's just new enemies that have appeared, having this talent so that Resounding Challenge gives you threat and essentially acts as a force taunt is really good, and the damage isn't as important, especially because this is essentially an AoE force taunt, right? It has a max, it's 20 meter range and a max targets of 10. So that's why this is here. If you don't feel like you need that threat generation and you'd rather have this point somewhere else, you totally can. Again, you can do Persevere. The difference between essentially these two healing ones is, so the Persevere Gambit healing line is anything that does Shield, Spear, and so on, right? Because Persevere is just Shield, Spear. So anything that does Shield, Spear, and then it goes back to Shield. So Safeguard, Shield, Spear, Shield. There should be another one. Yeah, Celebration of Skill, Shield, Spear, Shield, Spear. And then Restoration, Shield, Spear, Shield, Spear, Shield. This trait affects only those gambits. This trait affects all healing that start with the shield. So that would also include Conviction, right? So Conviction is Shield Fist. So the Persevere trait the healing of that will not affect Conviction, but this healing will. So what you could also do is kind of move some points around if you wanted, and you could have both of these, and now essentially you're buffing Conviction healing and your Persevere healing, but the Persevere healing line, both of these traits affect the Persevere line, because this is anything that starts with a shield, and then this one is anything that is Shield, Spear. So because the Persevere Gambit line is Shield and Shield, Spear, you're getting a total of 15% plus 20%. So you're looking at 35% extra healing for the Persevere line if you so choose. That's just the breakdown of those two skills. If maybe you're only worried about Persevere, I mean, technically this healing is just more. It's 20% versus 15%, and it's 4 points instead of 5 points. So that's why I have the points there for now. But eventually we're going to get both, and the healing will just be really good. But yeah, so that's the trait setup. Then for gambits, we want... So first, once again, we want Mastery Cooldown. That's just obviously a must-have. We build gambits faster, and that's super important. Then we want marked targets. That might also be utility. We want marked and diminished target potency, right? So that's these two skills, which make it so that the boot gambit line and the precise blow gambit line apply these two debuffs of hold on. Ooh. The boot. Great skill. So the boot will give a 5% physical mitigation, and then precise blow is a 5% tactical mitigation. So what this specific legacy does here, right? So it's, if we go, let's look at blue because that's pretty standard. So at baseline, the boot and precise blow provide a 5% tactical and physical mitigation debuff. This tracery turns that 5% and makes it 7%. And then if it was gold, it'd be 7.2%. So that is why this is just a must-have, because it's going to make the enemies just take more damage. And then we want heal bonus for conviction, right? So heal bonus, just making conviction heal a lot longer, which again, this trait here also helps conviction, and it makes conviction just a super strong heal, which is really good, both for yourself and just for the group in general. And conviction is really good for gaining threat. And then shield gambit line healing. So this just anything, this is just another version of this trait specifically. So this is shield gambit line healing 20%, but then a blue version of this tracery is another 50%. So with this tracery and that trait that we talked about, that's 70% more to shield gambit line healing. Anything that starts with a shield that heals you will heal for 70% more with this tracery and with that trait. Moving on to heraldry traceries, you want bear, heraldry of the bear. And it's mostly because of that outgoing healing. Outgoing healing is super powerful on a warden, because especially when we're tanking, we're doing all of this healing. The more outgoing healing we do, the harder we are to kill, and we're buffing our own. Outgoing healing buffs your defensive capabilities, essentially. So that's kind of fun that we can buff our survivability just by getting a tracery that helps our outgoing healing. So you'll want 2 of those. And then for words of craft, you just want the grand willpower, because we need that tactical mitigation as much as we can, because we take so much damage from tactical damage sources. And then we will want base morale, increase our base morale multiplier, and then the tactical damage one, incoming damage reduction, tactical, reduce our incoming tactical damage. So those are the 2 words of power that we will want. And I believe that concludes blue line. So now let's talk about gear. All right, let's talk about stats. So once again, as always, I'll put the stat cap link and a stat breakdown of how the stats work for the different classes in the description below. These numbers are not going to match what you see at 65, but we can still talk about the stats and break them down a little bit. So agility is the most important stat for Warden, of course, because it just gives us everything. Physical mastery rating, outgoing healing, which we talked about why that's important for tank, crit rating, and both mitigations with some block, parry, evade. Agility is, of course, important. Then there is vitality, which just increases our morale and our in-combat morale regeneration. Obviously, super important. Then we look at might. Might essentially does the exact same thing as agility, except it just doesn't give us mitigations, which is okay, but the key thing here is that not only is it a 1-to-1 ratio for mastery and outgoing healing, right? So I have, it's not a 1-to-1, it's a 1-for-2. So agility, right? Yeah, I have basically 13,000 mastery, let's look at crit. It's a 1-to-1 for crit, right? 12,938 crit, it's giving me 12,938 crit rating. But might is giving me essentially double, right? I have 741 might, but I'm gaining over 1,100 crit rating. So I guess it would be more closer to 1.5. So for crit specifically, might is really good, but it still gives us mastery at a 1-for-2 ratio, and then agility is 1-for-3 for mastery. But it's not a bad stat, especially as DPS, when we're looking at crit. So might is kind of important. And might also gives us finesse, which agility doesn't do, but might does. And we need finesse more it's good for both, but tanks might want to use might a little bit to make sure that their taunts actually land. So might's a little bit interesting, and it still gives us the outgoing healing that you want for tank. Then there's will, which still increases our physical mastery, still increases our outgoing healing. Yes, it's now a 1-to-1 instead of a 1-to-2 or a 1-to-3, but it gives us physical and tactical mitigations at a 1.5, and it also gives us finesse. So as a tank, you're now looking at, wait a minute, will's actually kind of good, might kind of helps out a little bit, and you're going to want that with agility and vitality. And that creates this really weird situation where essentially every stat is going to help you as a warden. Any piece of gear is good. Now, you don't want to, I'm not saying ignore agility and ignore vitality by any means and only focus on will and might. Still focus on agility. But if there's a piece that you see that has 70 might on it, let's say, and some tactical mitigation, but it doesn't have agility, that piece is still really, really good. So let's now look at our really weird gear scenario now that we've talked about stats. So, actually, and one more thing too is light damage is tactical damage. So now anything that does tactical crit multiplier is also extremely helpful. And anything that has tactical mastery. So this is why for all the Mirkwood stuff, there is an insane amount of gear that is useful to you. From Warg Pens, this bracelet. Lots of agility, lots of vitality, great starting place after you've got some crafting gear. For both tank and DPS, this is still really good start. Sword Hulls, it has a piece with a lot of might, still some great vitality, comes with tactical mitigation, and some incoming healing. Just because this doesn't have agility does not mean this is useless to you as a warden. This is still a really good neck piece to start with after you've gotten your crafted pieces of gear. And this is the same for these two cloaks. So yes, this one's agility focused. So it has some crit. So this would probably be, you could say it's more DPS focused. But you're going to want tactical mitigation still. So that's why even though this cloak is might, it actually has tactical mitigation on it. So again, this is actually still okay for a warden. You'll have to look at your stats when you're messing around, right? Because we talked about how agility gives you tactical mitigations, but might doesn't. So it's kind of like a weird trade-off where this 29 agility will give you 29 tactical mitigation, sure, but actually, all of a sudden, this cloak, even though it's might, gives you more tactical mitigation. It actually gives you basically 70 more. So that's why this cloak is kind of better, even though it's might focused, not agility focused. Dungeons, this earring, everyone wants it, and it's really good. It's really strong. Crit, tactical mitigation, great vitality. Moving on to SG, this ring, Sammoth Ghoul, very good. You're going to want it both for tanking and DPS. Glass Flask. This is a good pocket item to start, as you can do it for Redline if you have nothing else to start with. But for tank, this is really good. Because again, we talked about how will gives us all this extra stats that we just can use as a warden. It's not useless. And it has, even though it's tactical stuff, as a tank, all of your taunts and fist gambits are tactical damage, so you'll just be doing more damage as a tank anyways with this piece of gear. BG, raid wide, everything on the bottom here, great shields, and then these 2 rings. So Bracelet of the Tower, incoming healing as a tank, and even though it's got will, it's still going to be pretty helpful for you. As just, you have one, you get like 1 agility piece and then 1 kind of will piece, and all of a sudden your tank build is a little bit stronger now. I wouldn't double up, on will stuff. If you come across this and you get this in your loot and you have nothing else, this is still okay. Gem-studded bracelet, which also comes from North Cotton Farms, I think it is. Great bracelet. And we got, I love how they're both called gem-studded, but there's just 2 different versions. So this is just another example of, well, if you need some tactical mitigation, this bracelet is also fine. Between these 2 bracelets that are more DPS focused, you have an agility one and a might one. Both are good. In this scenario, you're technically getting more crit from the might one if you want more crit, but you're gaining more of everything else if you take the agility one. So if you need crit, take the might one. If you need any other stat, take the agility one. These 2 rings, once again, tactical crit multiplier is really strong on a warden because a lot of our gambits are tactical damage focused. So even though it's a will-based item, it's still good for warden. Warden is just annoying like that. And everyone is going to hate you because you're going to want every single piece of gear. And warden is just that one class that needs it all. And then this is a really good ring just for tanking and DPS as well. And this is all of the Mirkwood related stuff. Moving on to, in their absence, the OD cluster. This top section here is this is Lost Temple. The Lost Temple does drop the tactical damage neck, which you could do if you happen to get it and there's no one else in your group that wants it, but I would get the melee damage neck, as even though basically the melee damage neck is going to buff all of your gambits, the tactical damage neck is only going to buff your fist gambits. So that's why the melee damage neck is just better. But Lost Temple, this is probably your best in-slot bracelet from dungeons as a tank warden, even as just a DPS warden. Agility, high vitality, extra morale, and tactical mitigation. You can't really get anything better aside from if it had like some random tactical crit rating on it. This is probably the best bracelet you can get. A really good earring as well. High vitality, still lots of agility. So basically all stats. Here's another shield option that's still really good. This is going to give you, I think, more tactical mitigations than the other one. Yeah, this will give you more tactical mitigation. So, and more morale. So that's really good. Gem-studded bracelet comes from North Cotton Farms. So if you wanted another way to get this bracelet, you can go to North Cotton Farms. Lost Temple, or sorry, not Lost Temple, Stoneheight. All of this drops from the first 2... Wait, no, this ring is the first boss. This ring is the second boss, or third boss, I believe. But I think this cloak can drop from any of the bosses, if I remember right. Either way, great options just for tanking and DPS. This is a little bit more of a crit-heavy cloak, as opposed to... Actually, I think they're kind of the same. So this cloak is going to give you more crit and more vitality over the cloak that we talked about from Sword Halls. But the Sword Halls cloak is going to give you tactical mitigation, where this one will not. So that's just something to keep in mind. This stuff is Sari Surma, which is going to have a lot of your kind of your best in slot stuff. So another this is going to be your best in slot neck, and this will another one of the rings, right? They give you the tactical crit multiplier. Really good. It's fine for DPS if you have no other slots or nothing better. But for tank, this is still just really good because, again, we talked about why Will is so good, and just that tactical multiplier, making your fist gambits do more so that you can hold threat better. Pocket item for DPS is probably where your best pocket is going to come from if you don't use the glass flask. Just lots of vitality and insane crit rating. And then if you want even more crit rating, you have the might. And in basically, this is one of those. If we look at like this bracelet down here versus this bracelet, this is going to give you more of everything else. So more tactical mitigations, more damage, etc. This bracelet will just give you insane amount of crit. So if you really need that crit in whether you're tanking or DPS, but more DPS focused, here's another option for you. And that is gear. And the gear for, as you can see, is just a complete mess because everything is good. It really depends on what you need at the time and what you're playing. If you are just playing Redline and you're not tanking at all, then you don't need to worry about stuff as much like the glass flask and Ernil, right? That tactical stuff you don't need to worry about as much. The incoming healing stuff you don't need to worry about as much. It's just there and you can use. But if you are tanking, then all of a sudden that stuff becomes a little bit more valuable. And it just depends on where your stats lay. If you need more crit, then all of a sudden this bracelet has a lot more value. But if you don't need crit at all, because your other gear has so much crit, then this bracelet doesn't have any value to you whatsoever. So it's really going to depend. And Warden, like I said, is one of those really silly classes that can use literally everything. Because that's just how they work. Now, finally, and I'll put this I'll take a screenshot of it, put it in the video as well so that you can see. This is just a quick glance at a rotation that I think you should practice as DPS. And to most people, this is just going to look like it's just going to look like code. And this is easier than just saying the gambit names because we're not going to remember the gambit names as much. And the whole point is that you have to build up to those gambits to actually use them. So this is just easier to show. This is your button combo to use in this order to get to as a rotation to practice. So just to go over it, here, let's do this quickly. So if it says 1, that is quick thrust, 2 is shield bash, 3 is Warden's taunt, 4 is the gambit default or the gambit use button. So 1 is spear, 2 is shield, 3 is fist, 4 is the use ability. So going back to it quickly, just to show you, and I'll post on the screen for the outro as well, so you can just look at it. So you're going to start with spear, fist, shield, spear, fist, that's Warden's Triumph. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, and this is the combo of buttons that you're going to put. Right, I guess I didn't put 4 on here, so the whole idea is that you build 1, 2, so it'd be 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4 gambit use. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 use the gambit. 1, 2, 3, 1, 4 use the gambit. So on and so forth. right? 1-1, build your battle memory, right? So that's when you use quick thrust twice. Then you hit, you use the gambit, and then you use battle memory, and now the next gambit you use gets remembered. So now I'll switch off of this for a quick second, right? So 1-1, use the gambit. You've now activated battle memory, so you activate battle memory, and now the next gambit you use, you remember, and the gambit that you're going to remember is going to be 3-1-3-1-3, which is, that's, I think it's called Spear of Fate. Spear of, is it not? Oh, whoops, I'm looking in Fate. Yeah, 3-1-3-1-3 is Spear of Fate, right? So you're halfway through your rotation, you're building up the battle memory, you're using Spear of Fate, and then you're keeping the battle memory going. And then you're going to use a couple more gambits. And then you're using this gambit, Spear of Fate, from your battle memory, right? And then you go back to spamming things, refreshing bleeds, cashing out your bleeds. Then you use your Way of the Spear, or fist bonus, and then your recklessness every 2 rotations, right? So you'll go through this list once, use your recklessness, and then you start with your recklessness, you go through this, and then every 2 rotations after that first one, recklessness will be back up so that you can use it again. All right. So hopefully that made sense. Warden is incredibly confusing, but this is only supposed to make sense to Wardens, nobody else, and this is an example of why Wardens are very complex and layered. But yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment. The next classes that we're going to work on is, I'll still do a burglar one. I'll do a burglar one here soon. We have a rework coming for the burglar soon, so I think I'll get a guide out before the rework, just so that you guys can see the trait points and traceries and stuff before the rework, and then hopefully the rework won't change too much. It shouldn't in terms of traceries, but it is going to change how the class is played a little bit in terms of rotational stuff, so I didn't want to get into that stuff with the guide. I'll talk more about that when the actual rework happens, because we also don't know how the rework's going to go. There's been some feedback on it already that some people really like, some people really hate with the burglar, so we'll have to see how that goes. And then I still have Runekeeper and Bear in the works, and then that will only leave Brawler and Mariner, I think, because I believe we have every other class. And the Runekeeper and Burglar one are going to be at a higher level cap. Bear will be at 65, and then Brawler and Mariner I have never played before, so I have to level those up and actually learn the class still. So that's why those 2 are going to be a little bit later. But yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. I really do appreciate the support that I've been getting on the channel, and those coming by to streams and Discord, saying hi, asking questions. You're always welcome to sending me a message here and there. It does not matter to me. I always welcome questions and clarifications on things and discussions about stuff too, and hearing your guys' thoughts on a class. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.